Hello guys, Oklahoma Bridges here, and we're looking at something I picked up just this last Friday, the last Friday of June, at my local antique mall. It is a Seth Thomas weight-driven OG clock. And it's going to be my new project here. Although it shouldn't take very long. I've got a chip in the veneer there that needs to be darkened up. I can see in this corner here it's had a patch of veneer in the past. I'm not sure if this is original or not, but there's usually a hole in the top of these clocks, and I see this knob is here. Someone's made some homemade hangers. And it's got holes and nails from where it's had dust caps over the pulleys at one time. Still got the original weights. And very nice original glass both over the dial and on the tablet. And it looks pretty nice. Looks pretty presentable as is. So let's open it up and take a look inside. Here's the back side of the glass. You can see it's got some worn areas here. Take a look at the label here. Seth Thomas, Thomaston, Connecticut. There's the end of the minute hand that's broken off. And there's a hole where it's been mounted to the wall. Take a look at the dial. Dial looks like it's going to need some professional help at some point. It's pretty flaky here. What we can see of the movement here. Seth Thomas, Plymouth, Connecticut, USA. So let's just very carefully take the hands off. Looks like the hour hand's been dragging on the dial. Now, on clocks like this, for removing hands held on with a taper pin, it's best to have a pair of pliers like this with a notch cut in one of the jaws, and that is so that you can get on there like this and remove the taper pin. Well, that light wasn't very good for that, was it? Let me reposition one of these lamps. Let me reposition myself as well. So I'm going to tighten that pin back up so I can show you loosening it off again. So the notch is going to go over the pin, and then this jaw is going to push against the minute arbor to tighten the pin up, and then to remove the pin so I can take the hands off, I'm going to put it on the other way and just push it off like that. Then I can remove the pin and set it to the side. Now I can remove the stump of the minute hand here and the washer. We'll leave those together. And the hour hand just pulls straight off. It's just a friction fit. And then I'll remove the dial. Now this dial is held in with L-shaped pins. There's two pins at the top and two pins at the bottom. And I just turn the two bottom pins 180 degrees and lift the dial off. So we'll do that. No, don't touch the dial with the pliers when doing this. Just turn it around like that, and then I'll just be able to lift the dial off the seat boards here. Okay. Without touching the face of the dial. Just lift it back like that. This dial is very crisp here. God. That's gonna have to be stabilized. Okay, and there's a look at the movement. 30-hour Seth Thomas OG weight-driven movement. And it looks like the upper end of the pendulum leader here is mangled, and it's a one-piece leader. I've had pretty good luck with flattening these back out and making them useful again. So I'll probably do the same thing with this one. So it's probably the original rod. Very lightweight gong. It looks like someone has restrung this at some point with some steel cable here. Not my first choice. I'd rather do brass or some kind of cord. That's what I've done with some of the other clocks. Done a few with brass cable, and I decided I'd much rather use some kind of a cord material instead. It's be less likely to cut into these wooden pulleys. See, the movement's held together with taper pins too. Now, I'll take this movement apart and I'll clean it and put it back together. As far as doing any bushing work on it, this is going to be a clock that I run on the weekends only. So it's not going to get a lot of use, and I don't expect that these things were real tight to begin with when they were new. And for a clock that's just going to see occasional use, I'd rather it be clean and worry about everything being tight. I don't think these movements are made that precisely where you have to really worry that much about it. Just look at the way the gears mesh here and see what kind of play there is, and see how much wear is in that hole there. I think there's a lot of opinion variance in the clock community on how much wear is acceptable, and many people would probably bush every hole on this, but in all reality, for just occasionally running it, it's probably going to be just fine as is. Just clean it up and use it. I don't think these things were that precisely made to begin with. That bushing is pretty tight. That one seems fairly snug too. Definitely more wear on the time side than the strike side, but I bet you it will run just fine without any issue. And 30-day clocks are weekend only clocks. You've got to wind them every day, so just wind them up and run them on the weekends. Get rid of this steel weight cable here. And I really don't want to do a whole lot to the case other than just clean it. It's pretty nice as it is. Probably go over it with some kind of scratch remover, or just basically leave it as it is and just darken this chip up, because really the case is pretty uniform and in pretty good condition in my opinion to just leave on display as it is. And this clock's going to go on the lower shelf in the living room with the other OG clocks. It's going to replace a virtually identical Seth Thomas clock that was made maybe 10 years later, that is 10 years newer than this one, that isn't in as nice a shape as this. It doesn't even have a nice dial. It has a nice tablet, but the dial isn't nice, and somebody's nailed some panel molding on over this banding here on the outside. So I'm probably gonna give that clock a much less prominent location. I'll use this clock to replace it, as it's a much nicer looking clock. I got it for under $100, so it was a pretty good deal. I wouldn't pay more than $100 for a 30-hour OG clock. It's kind of hard to pinpoint a date on when this was made. I would venture to say the early to mid 1870s, but that's subject to a few things. Seth Thomas did start using the Thomaston on the label there in 1865 when the town was renamed from Plymouth Hollow to Thomaston. The movements continued to be stamped Plymouth, though, for as late as 1883 or 1884 was when some of the last of the Plymouth Hollow movements were made. But I think by that time they had switched to using screws to hold the movement plates together. So that would be a good indication that this is probably 1870s vintage, just based on other movements I've seen and some of the books that I've read on Seth Thomas about the various changes that were made on the movements. So anyway, eventually you'll get to see this clock in the background and some of the other videos where I'm playing records and pan around the house a little bit. So, and I'll do a follow-up video later on this too, and I have it apart at various stages. I'll do an occasional follow-up, but I just thought I'd share with you one of my new projects that I'm going to be undertaking here. I like OG clocks. They're rather neat. I like the 8-day OG clocks. I think the 30-hour OG clocks are interesting too. And just take another look at this tablet here. I think it's really nice looking. We'll use this to end the video with. So anyway, I will see you all next time.